This daf Yom Yerushalmi Terumos. In the Arts Hose Bahadr edition, we are right at the top of daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph. I can't find where I put my Gemara yesterday. There we go. And I think Mamish at the top. Halacha Dalet, which in the Vilna is on above Halacha Dalet, there too. And I have to find just the Kavanaki for myself here. Says the Mishnah, to 5 people should not take a truma being tarmu. If they did take a truma, trumas on truma. The truma is valid. Ha'ilaim, person who's mute but not deaf. Hashikar, person who's drunk. Varam, person who's naked. Vasuma, person who's blind. Uba'akeri, a person who saw an emission. Lo yichumu, all of them shall take truma. Being tarmu, trumas and truma, but the evidence, if they did take off truma, it's valid truma. More is going to explain. It says the Mishnah further, Truma Gedolah you cannot take off, not with a measure, nor with a weight, nor with a count. It has to be approximation. And the reason is that it should be buying off. You should err on the side of giving more to the Kohen. But you can take truma from something that is measured, and so that is weighed, that's somebody that is counted. You don't take off truma in a basket or a box which has what's the word? Gradations on it in order to measure. But you can do a half or a third, but which is approximation. So the way the Mepharshim say it, that if it's mole, it's bad because they know precisely how much it is. If it's shlish or mechza, it's a third or fourth, you don't know how full it is. It's by definition approximated, so therefore that's okay. You should not use a keli that is called a saw, even if there is a not even. You shouldn't use a saw. A saw, the measure, a standard measure of a saw. You should not use. Even you're only going to use half of it, because half of chatzi saw is also a midah. Whereas if it's one which has just gradations and it's not a very standardized measure, that seems to be okay. But if it's a very standardized measure, that's no good because then there is you can know precisely what the half is. And the Kavanaki says, well, it's not that you know precisely, but there's a mark. We'll talk about it because Chatzi Saw is something which was chashuv, so therefore there was a mark in the keli for Chatzi Saw. So the only time you can do lemechza is where there's no gradations and no markings. If gradations marking, you can't use it. Okay. Says the... what's not more yet? Yeah. Says more. In the Reisha, some of them are no good because of the bracha, because you have to make a bracha. Shek Shem Mitzvah Sav B'Tzvel after his truma. Those other ones, because the 10th day truma are from the best, and says the best of the olive oil and the best of the wine and the grain. That's what you should give. The person is mute, the person is naked. Now to make a bracha, you're naked. Balkari, back then there was still machmir. Balkari should make brachas. That doesn't mean a bracha. Hasuma vashikar, the person who is blind or drunk. It's because the other reason they can't pick. They're not loose enough to tell the difference between good and bad. Rabbi Abba bar Ravuna Amar. Rabbi Abba says, "Shosi al yispal, a person who is inebriated should not daven. V'yispal, if he did, filosu tachnuni. His tefillah is a valid tefillah. It's okay. He said enough kavanah, but that's because he is inebriated, shasui, not drunk. A shikra yispal. If he did, a drunk person should not daven yispal. If he did, he also keduvin his tefillah is a mockery, the blasphemy. Ezu shasui. So we define them. What's a shasui? Kol shasui is a drink revius. According to Chaim Noah, 3.3 ounces. According to Chaznish, black hair, I think it's 4.1. According to Moshe, I think it's 5.2. So the so a shikar shalasi said drank revius. A shikar kosher shalasi yoser. Anybody who drank more than revius. So they had very strong wine, though their wine made them shikar already with a very small amount. Tamar and Erin, they over there above, they said the definition of a shikar shandam is kosher yochel dam melch. Anybody who can't talk in front of the king, with proper etiquette. As Rabbi Yassi, we asked for Rabbi Yassi, shikar ma'ush yivarech. Can a drunk person bench? Amalei says, v'chalta b'sabata be'rachta. It says anybody can eat, be satisfied, and make a bracha. Afilu shikar. A person's drunk, v'afilu dumdum, and even if he's dozing off. So in other words, he's dozing and saying, as long as he's saying the words. So that's the way I would interpret it. But he brings down here from the Alei Tamar, name of the Kunshas over Orach, that V'chalta v'savata kari bei v'savata, with the savata with a samech beis aleph tov, as opposed to sin beis ayin tov. And savata means you drank too much. Okay, I think it's in Aramaic. So I'm not sure why we explain it. We'll do that in the pasuk, but maybe it's just an asmachta. Lo tzura da elam maushik or krishma. Tefillah can't have it because tefillah standing in front of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Birkas Hamazon, evidently you're not davening to Hashem. You're thanking. It's the same way, not supplicating Hashem. So therefore, it's okay either because it's it doesn't, no matter how you got there, or because of that drasha of Visavata being like Visavata. But Kriyashma, it's a holy declaration, but it's not tefillah per se. So what's the story? That it's the problem of Mashik Kriyashma. There should not be seen among you the nakedness of matter. We dash not ervas dibor. Nakedness, which is a flaw in the way you speak. So therefore, if that's the case, excuse me, you shouldn't do Shema either. Tani Chizkiah ben likros ben levarech. He says even benching. He should not say Shema. He calls Shema, and he also should not bench either. So the so the Maskonos Hashmur, the Kabbalah does not bring down what the halacha is if he by Shema. Okay. It says the Gemara further. This is going to the second part of the Mishnah about not doing truma with a measure. Talmud, we learned over there, Amoneh Meshubach. Somebody who counts is praiseworthy. Somebody who measures is even more praiseworthy. Shubach Himenu. Shokel, and the person who weighs, Meshubach Mishloshin, is the best of the best. The Khatam Archain here says you can't do anything like that. Truma Gdoila has to be done with estimating. The Trumas Meiser, which is coming from Meiser already, that can be done precisely. So the praiseworthy statements are about Trumas Meiser. The tiny little Brisa, he argues by Trumas and Meiserus in the following Brisa. Tai Abba Loza ben Goimel Omer Minayin Shein Termilo Midam Mishka V'Lo Minyan. Talmud Amar Nechshav Lochen Trumaschem. You have to think your Truma, not measure it. So that's so far that's talking about Truma Gdola. Let's do by reckoning, not by precise measuring. But now he says about Truma Gdola Machshava, just like Truma Gdola is done by estimation. and not by measure. Av chumas meiser b'machshava. Chumas meiser also the same thing. But didn't we learn Avatarmus and Mother Best Ashokava as a money? So what's going to do with that Mishnah later on? Which says you can do that, and it's good for seemingly chumas meiser. Unless a kini masis is the way to read that brisa. Modi adam is tivlo. The person measures his untight grain, machnisa toch based on bringing it into his house. But when you do the truma on it, you shouldn't be a measure. You can know how much you have. That's good, but you shouldn't measure it when you're taking it off. Similarly, shokal adam is tivlo. A person can weigh his tevel. Machnisa toch based on bringing it into his house. But as only does the b'mishkos, only doesn't take the truma based on the weight. Mona adam is tivlo. A person can count this tevel. And when the base bring it to his house, as long as he doesn't take the truma off by count, and that's the halacha. It has to be specifically umedana. But the Ram does says lo yitrom b'sal b'kupa should be dasin yidua. Havel term ubachem v'chetzim shlishton v'lo yitrom b'sal chetzia shachetzia mida. Okay, so it's basically our Mishnah. Okay, so halacha. Anytime in Shemin al Zaysim and Nichtashim, we can't take truma from oil on crushed olives. Which so the Nichtashim doesn't not crushed already. Ones which are destined to be crushed. And not wine on grapes which are meant to be pressed. Being told if you did the truma, be absolutely truma. It's truma, but only for the purpose of being machmenu. You have to stake off another truma. Then the halachas arisha is the primary one. Medamas mifnei atzma. If it gets mixed up with less than 100, it makes that thing meduma, and you have to tell it to the kohanim, except for the price of that one whatever got mixed in. And chayv chomesh. If a zor eats it, he's chayv chomesh because that's sikul truma. Avaloshni, but the second one not because the second one is not considered to be truma. It's just evidently a derabanan because it's too dissimilar, and therefore they made you fix it up by doing it again. Okay, that brings us to we're still in the Mishnah, but it brings us to the top of the Gemara. So stop here for today.